Remember that time Nintendo made the little microphone that was super wonky to use and was specifically used for a very few selection of GameCube games, like Mario Party 6 and 7? Yeah, that microphone. It was a sort of fun little gimmick, but my goodness, was it so unresponsive at times. I'm glad they never brought this little piece of plastic back for future Mario Party games. But why am I making a rating video on the GameCube microphone if I'm not a fan of it? Because it gave us some top tier minigames that utilize the mic in more ways than one. There are a total of 17 mic minigames across both Mario Party 6 and 7, and I will be rating each one based on how fun they are, how fair the main objectives are for both sides, and how replayable they are. With that being said, let's dive right in. Beginning with Mario Party 6, there are a total of 7. The first one is Shoot Your Mouth Off, a 1v3 minigame where the main objective is to have the single person eliminate the 3 by saying the numbers on the signs associated with the stations. These stations contain bob-ombs, bonsai bills, and thwomps. This one requires a bit of multitasking for both parties, as the one calling the orders must predict where the 3 players are running off to, and take into account how fast and how slow the bob-ombs, Shy Guys, and bonsai bills are to catch them. There's also a cooldown period for each Shy Guy, which gives the 3 players a little breathing room. The 3 on the other hand must work together to stay coordinated and not get in each other's way and split up as much as possible to avoid being teamed up on. I enjoy minigames like these, where both sides have it rough and makes for some interesting matches. Of course, when you're using something as janky as the mic, the game has trouble deciphering the voice commands, which waste time in the minigame to set off the weapons. I rate Shoot Your Mouth Off and it's 75 out of 100 because of how chaotic it can get if you manage to get all 3 Shy Guys busy setting stuff off on the players, and it's pretty funny. The next minigame is TalkiWalki. Here we have 3 players sitting on top of clouds throwing spinies at the person with a microphone on an 8x32 stage. The single person must speak into the mic to either move forward, right, left, or back. This is so that you can proceed to the finish line and to throw out the aim of the 3 players. To make the game more balanced, the speed for the spinies falling are pretty slow, and as the throwers, you have to predict where the person walking will make the next move, and throw from there to catch them off guard. I like this game for its psychological aspects, and can either end quickly or be lengthy. There aren't too many minigames of this fashion, so I appreciate the uniqueness of it. I rate TalkiWalki at 67 out of 100, because it's a little on the boring side compared to the other minigames on the list, but it's alright. The next minigame is Word Heard. Here, the single player controls a crowd of Goombas who are under your control for some reason, and you as the leader must command them to avoid being punched by the 3 players. You can either have them move right, left, up, down, or scatter, or utter a secret word, Ukiki, which has Ukikis throw stuff at the 3 players, stunning them for a really long time, but they have limited uses. This is an interesting one as both parties have it tough this time around. There are a lot of Goombas to punch, and keeping them all away isn't exactly easy, but punching them all out before the timer runs out isn't exactly a walk in the park either. The team must work together to stay in separate sections of the stage to cover all areas in case a Goomba roams over there. These Goombas are pretty quick on their feet too, and it doesn't help that the characters move sluggishly. If even one Goomba remains unpunched, then the single player wins by default. There have been numerous close calls when playing this game, and it's exhilarating for both parties. I rate Word Heard an 89 out of 100 because of how crazy it gets while trying to avoid being hit by the apples thrown and trying to focus on hitting each innocent Goomba. Moving on to Fruit Cocktail, this is one of the funnier minigames, as a single person must say the names of the fruit that corresponds with the panels that the 3 players are standing on in order to lower all the platforms with the fruit they've spoken. What makes this funny exactly is that if you have watched the Runaway guys play this minigame, Proton John was speaking gibberish, and the game actually accepts whatever is being said, and chooses a random fruit panel to be chosen, and all predictability is tossed out the window. It is now a guessing game. Doing this method may be a little cheap, but it's almost impossible to win as a single person when playing with other humans since they can just hear you speak. The panels drive insanely quick, and it's up to the 3 to not bounce on each other to avoid screwing each other over. I rate Fruit Cocktail 98 out of 100 because of how funny it tends to be if you just speak gibberish the entire time and watch your opponents fall to their dooms. Moving on to Verbal Assault, this is a heavily mech-based minigame where the single player must control a giant robot and eliminate the 3 players who are trying to shoot down the big baddie. Each of the 3 players have 3 hearts, and as a single person, you can sprinkle bombs onto the field, shoot homing bullet bills that lock onto one player until it crashes, You can unleash dual flamethrowers, which covers a huge area of the battlefield. You can shoot multiple missiles that shoot straight ahead. And lastly, you can toss Goombas that roll towards you. The single person has a huge number of health, and it takes a while to actually be defeated, so this may be biased towards the 1 rather than the 3. I like this one because it requires a ton of focus for both sides, accurate aiming, and staying dedicated to the task at hand. Any minigame that requires mechs is an instant plus in my book, as they're always chaotic and fun. I rate Verbal Assault an 80 out of 100, because despite being a fun game, it can go on for a really long time, which may overextend its welcome, and it's supposed to be a minigame after all. Moving on to the special mic minigames that can only be played in minigame mode. The first one of these is called Speak Up. It's basically a game show that involves choosing one question for 5 different quizzes: picture quiz, counting quiz, memory quiz, comparison quiz, and variety quiz. You can also choose the difficulty associated with whichever quiz you choose, and that determines how many points you'll be rewarded if you pass the question. Some of these questions are either super easy or super hard, and also a bit funny. The number of points you earn depends on how fast you're able to solve the question, so it's best to not hesitate when answering. The mode itself is a little lengthy, but it's pretty fun if you're playing with friends, and if you enjoy game shows like modes, then this is a game for you. I rate Speak Up an 80 out of 100 because it's just your average game show with minigames, with nothing over the top, but it's still enjoyable sometimes, and it's funny seeing different characters in different costumes and whatnot. The last minigame from Mario Party 6 is Star Sprint. This is a marathon minigame where you must carry the star on an obstacle course that is riddled with all sorts of traps and enemies, designed to hinder your progress and slow you down as much as possible. But perhaps the most janky part about this minigame is of course the bike itself. In order to move, you have to keep telling your character to jump, move up, down, get to star, run, and so on. You can use dash panels and metal mushrooms to aid you on your journey. This is a little frustrating to play as the bike is very unresponsive, and you're constantly having to repeat just for it to recognize your commands. In some portions, you can have your team help you out to progress. I'm not a huge fan of Star Sprint, but it's serviceable as an optional minigame to play in minigame mode. I rate Star Sprint at 60 out of 100 because, like I said, it's a bit janky to play and that's not fun at all. Moving on to the next game, Mario Party 7, which has a total of 10 mic minigames, with 5 being 4-player ones, and the other half being 1v3. The first one on the list is Balloon Busters. This is basically a crazier version of Bowser's Big Blast, except you have more control this time around, and 3 players instantly lose, while 1 person wins instantly. You can blow into the mic up to 5 times to inflate the balloon for the next person in line. The strategy is to blow just enough, so that the next person has no choice but to blow at least once, and then stop. The drawback is that you don't know when the balloon will pop exactly, so you have to use your better judgment to either blow just enough, or blow only once and hope the next person pops in instead. This minigame is hilarious because with each blow into the mic, you think the balloon would have popped like 5 minutes ago, and it's amazing seeing just how big it can inflate, just like that. I rate Balloon Busters a 90 out of 100 because of how strategic you can get in this minigame, rendering a replayable experience every time with different outcomes, depending on what strategy you used. Moving on to Dart Attack. This is a simple game of darts where you have to fire 5 darts at moving targets ranging between 10, 20, 30, and 50. The bigger the score, the faster the targets move, and if you miss all of them, you get a big fat 0. This is a little tricky because there's very slight delay after seeing fire, and actually shooting the dart, which can severely impact your aim. The trick is to predict about 1 second beforehand to get the target you desire. It's a very simple minigame, but sometimes that's okay. I rate Dart Attack an 85 of 100 because of how it tests your aim and it's a solid minigame overall. Moving on to Math Mortician, the objective here is to eliminate the pink boos in this haunted manner by calling out the numbers in each slot when the boos float by. This is very similar to Dart Attack except you have unlimited throws, and there's a very slight delay here before throwing as well, so you need to predict your shot accurately. There's a crown pink boo which is worth bonus points too. This minigame can be a tad overwhelming as there are a swarm of boos just floating by multiple number slots, and you need to hurry up and decide which boo to aim for and aim for the next number quick or else they're all gone. I've always liked this one more than Dart Attack because it reminded me of those arcade machines where you use a plastic gun to aim at the zombies on screen. I rate Math Mortician a 90 out of 100 because it's fun to aim at the boos floating by and feels frantic play as well. Moving on to Clockwatchers. This is a televised event hosted by Goombas where the main objective is to stop the timer closest to the targeted time on screen. This takes an insane amount of accuracy as the screen closes after 3 seconds, and you have to count in your head how many seconds has passed, and then say stop, a little early to bypass the delay. This isn't the most exciting minigame as there's a lot of silence and waiting to stop the timer, but I will say when you manage to stop your clock closest to the target time, it's extremely satisfying to pull off. I rate Clockwatch as a 40 out of 100 because it's sort of boring to play, not gonna lie. The next one's Oil Crisis. This is a driving focused minigame where the main objective is to drive to the finish while your gas tank is still full. You have to drive between 4 lanes by saying left, right, and mushroom to gain a boost but sacrifice your gas meter. There are fuel tanks to collect on the road and oil slicks to slow you down. You need to turn lanes beforehand to avoid slowing and plan everything ahead of time in order to complete this minigame successfully. This one is a little bit tricky to pull off as it involves a lot of multitasking as you're constantly trying to swerve left and right, but it's a solid minigame overall. I rate Oil Crisis as 79 out of 100 because it can end pretty quickly if you don't know what you're doing. Moving on to the 1v3 mic minigames, the first one is Wheel of Woe. As the name implies, the main objective is to eliminate the 3 players stuck on a giant turning cog that the single player controls and it unleashes chain chomps and bullet bills. The Shy Guy controls the direction of the cog, as well as to catch our opponents off guard. There are also 4 holes on the cog itself to ensnare any unsuspecting fool into falling into the deep depths. This is a very unforgiving minigame and leans in favor of the 1 as there is very little room for error for the 3, since it's so cramped that there are chain chomps and bullet bills flying everywhere. It's hard to not get hit here. I rate Wheel of Woe an 85 of 100 because of how chaotic it can get when you fire off a ton of commands at once. The next one is Be My Chum. This is similar to Wheel of Woe, except the 3 players are subjected to swim this time, and water-based mechanics aren't exactly fun. The single person must command Cheep Cheeps, Lakitus, Bloopers, and Sushi to appear in the water to eliminate the other players. If you thought Wheel of Woe was unforgiving, Be My Chum is 10 times worse, as there seems to be no cooldown period for the commands, so that means you can literally just spam Sushis and Cheep Cheeps to swim. It doesn't help that the entire field is absolutely bombarded with enemies, making it super difficult to navigate to safety. If you manage to avoid this bullet hell, then you are either the luckiest person ever or insanely skilled at dodging stuff. I rate Be My Chum an 81 out of 100 because it seems extremely weighted towards the 1 rather than the 3 this time around because of the amount of commands you can input with no penalty. The next one is Number Crunchers. The main objective of this game is to avoid being crushed by the oncoming thwomps and must hop from platform to platform. The single person must say 1, 2, or 3, square or circle. This actually matters because you can throw off your opponent as they may not realize what shape they're standing on, since it's so focused on the numbers. If you speak gibberish into the mic, this is pretty much a guaranteed win because there's literally no telling which platform will be thwomped until it's too late. But unless you have very fast reflexes, it could still be in the favor of the 3 if you pay attention. I rate Number Crunchers at 82 out of 100 because this is such an extreme scenario and is frantic but funny and minigame to play. The next one is Boxing Day. The main objective here is for the 3 players to ground pound every panel on the board to reveal a picture of a bomb, while the single person must knock them off while piloting a giant sweet robot. The commands here are right, left, double punch, rotate, and rocket punch. There are massive cooldown periods when using the rocket punch because it takes forever to move, once you get new arms after using it. Simply saying right and left is much faster because you can move again after inputting the commands. Each punch is crazy fast and takes up half the space on the board, so if you aren't paying attention, it's gonna be a quick elimination. But at the same time, I feel like this is in the favor of the 3 as it doesn't take that much time to ground pound all the panels if everyone worked in tandem. I rate Boxing Day at 75 of 100 because it's over really quickly but the concept is funny and fun to play. Moving on to the last minigame on the list, which is Stratosphere. This is a very Mario Bros-esque minigame because it is a direct reference to the Mario platforming series, complete with tall mushroom platforms, pipes, and floating blocks. The 3 players must jump and dodge incoming bullet bills, while the single person must raise their platform up and down repeatedly, severely impacting the jumping height. Since the 3 are so close together, jumping on top of each other is inevitable, and can severely screw each other over potentially as getting jumped on impacts your jumping height. It also doesn't help that after jumping on a bullet bill, you can't jump again until you land, so it makes platforming a little awkward with the mushroom moving up and down fast. This is fun for both sides in my opinion, and I always appreciated 2D Mario references in the background of the minigame. I rate Stratosphere at 90 out of 100 because of how chaotic it can get, and working together is a must if you want to win as a 3. Well, that just about does it for this video. There are a lot more mic minigames from Mario Party 6 and 7 than I expected. Most were chaotic and fun, while some were just boring and frustrating to play due to the mic's unresponsive nature. I'm glad Nintendo hasn't brought this thing back, but I do appreciate it for bringing something new for its time. Until then, thank you for watching. Do you agree with my ratings? Comment down below and please like and subscribe for more rating videos like these.